Hi, kitty cats. I am Amethyst Herrick, your hostess for the Purple Podcast, a bi-weekly discussion from your friends at the Purple Pod Clan, exploring the intersection of identity and gender, sexuality and intimacy, and community and spirituality. This content right here is being brought to you by supporters of the Purple Pod Clan. So if you are already a supporter, let me first thank you for your ongoing support. You know pretty dang well that subscribers not only receive new content directly to their email inboxes as soon as it publishes, but every supporter is also able to interact with each contributor directly. And that means me too. So if you ever wanted to interact with me, and why would you not? That's the way to do it. If you would like to support shows just like this one, as well as other podcasts, other videos, and other written articles by our contributors, I hope you will consider subscribing using the links you're going to find down there in the show notes. Well, I am very, very excited to introduce my guest today, Arnold Beekes. How are you doing, Arnold?
I'm great. Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
Good. Oh, thank you. This is going to be a great conversation, in my opinion. You know what, though? If we get to the end and you go, turns out you were wrong, that's fine. Just keep that opinion to yourself. That's all I ask. Arnold is an author, a speaker, and a brain fitness trainer. If you go to Arnold's website, you will see he is the creator of many masterclasses that are used to uncondition our brains from much of what goes on around us here in society. And as we were talking earlier, you know, I mentioned that that's a lot of the work that I've done too. So I know how I got here, but I'm curious about how you got here. What was it that happened in your childhood in particular that inspired you to consider everything about unconditioning your brain?
Well, it was not only my childhood, it is basically where the conditioning takes place. It is obviously your upbringing, your childhood, but it's also the educational system. It's also the education covers school, university, vocational training, whatever, but also work, also I would say religion. Yeah? So everything in our society which tries to mold you in a certain way. And that had a huge impact on me. Well, I did realize it because a lot of the time I felt fearful and lousy, but it's, no alternative. No other way. So it's just like, if you just, well, what I say, I call that fitting in. You're fitting in means is that you live someone else's life. You do what other people expect you to do. Yeah, and yeah, when are you a good kid? Yeah, and whether you're a baby or a kid, when are you good? When you do exactly what your parents expect you to do. Yeah?
Right.
Then you go to school. When are you a good student at school? Doesn't matter whether it's primary, high school. Same story. When you do exactly what the teacher tells you to do, you're a good student. Yeah?
Yeah.
University, same story. It's only professors or whatever name they have. Then you go to work. When are you a good employee? When you do exactly what your boss tells you to do. Maybe even in relationships, in marriages, when are you a good spouse? When you do exactly what the other person expects you to do. So that is what I call fitting in. And fitting in is living someone else's life. You're not living your own life. And I was pretty good at that because, well, I didn't know any alternative and I knew what I was supposed to do. And I was pretty good at that because I was very, very heavily trained by my father, who was a military officer. And he was extremely authoritarian. At home, even much, much more than at work. Whereas much later on, I spoke to my father, was already dead for years, and he had worked with my father, and he said, Arnold, your father was really an asshole. It's like, yeah.
No.
Yeah, so, and he was in his 80s already. So he's like,
yeah.
And I was like, well, you should have met him at home. You know, so it's like, that is the environment in which we grew up. So the environment where there is heavy conditioning and people very subordination and authoritative thing, when I went into business, I was like, well, this is easy. This is a piece of cake because I was like,
Sure.
this is easy compared to what I experience at home.
You know, you used the phrase, I think you said you didn't know better. Why is it we don't know better? Yeah, let me just
Well,
leave it that.
it's a really good question, Amy, and because I totally believe that this thing called Earth or planet, it's really, and I find it a very, very applicable name. It's a prison planet. It's like it's like we are supposed to create and build as other people want us to do, yeah, and the only way that you want us to do is to bring in a lot of fear, yeah? And based upon that fear, if you do that, yeah, so that is where every institution, whether environmental, social, or economic, is playing that game. Yeah, so they don't want you to show alternatives or like, hey, Arnold, you could have chosen to do this, or you can go this way or that. No, there's only one way, and one way is to be a cock in the machine.
So it's like an antagonistic system, though, because we get taught. I mean, you go to university classes, philosophy classes, because everybody's taking philosophy these days. If you go to a university philosophy class, you get taught about epistemology, how we learn what we know. I mean, we get taught that we have this free will. Even religion tends to do that, and yet. So that's why it's antagonistic. You know, we get taught, oh, you've got this great mind that you can do everything. Look around us. Look at this, our ability to talk over the internet. This must be amazing, right? And yet we're not supposed to exercise it. How did we? Oh, go ahead.
That is why there's a huge difference between the narrative which they tell you,
yes,
and the reality. Yeah? The narrative is to still make you kind of feel good under the conditions that you're really a cock in the machine, you're really a prisoner. But if we would all know that, well, other people call it an enslavement planet, it's like if we would all know that we're just prisoners and slaves, then, well, we would stop doing anything. But so it's like they got to tell you a story, a narrative, which is like you can be anyone you want to be. If you just follow our guidelines, and you will be happy and everything. And that narratives go, well, yeah, get married, have children, be happy and healthy, and then you work hard. But then after that, you can retire and do fun things, whatever. That narrative is a huge lie, like everything.
Yeah.
Like you got what's that name? Is called the American way? Is like anybody can become a millionaire. Anybody can be successful if you work hard enough, if you put all the stuff in, and it's like that's the narrative. So people are like, I just have to work hard and I can do it. That's what they tell me. But that is just to keep you, well, not really happy, but that's what they say is to keep you happy. Is like, oh, yeah, I got to follow that part. Well, I feel lousy, but I got to do these things. So there's a difference between the narrative, what they say is you got to do, and what the reality is. The reality is that there's only a handful of people who become billionaires, and the rest of the people look now in the world are suffering. So it's like, so all of these narratives, and there are hundreds of them, which you get conditioned from the moment basically you're born, are just lies.
They are. You it's funny. You brought up the American dream.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's what I was looking at. Yeah.
That was not necessarily a correction. That was exactly what I played into for decades. and decades. And it wasn't until I started thinking about, why am I so miserable, that I went, oh, I should probably challenge this. I mean, that's a really big part of everybody who grows up in the United States. We get taught, just, if you don't feel good, work harder. If you're not feeling happy, you probably just don't have enough money. And if you don't have enough money, then probably what you need is more education. And if you don't need the education, then maybe you need this. If get the new iPhone, right? The iPhone 62 just came out. Go and get that. You're going to be much happier. It is all a lie.
And that impact, the result of that is that you think it's my fault. I did something wrong. I didn't work hard enough. I didn't understand the correct. Maybe I made some mistakes in applying that method or whatever. It's like, because, you get all these books. I don't know whether it's still there. Like 10 steps to become a millionaire. Follow my method XYZ. Yeah?
Yes.
I did follow those things. And I started to become very depressed because I'm like, Arnold, you're really not an entrepreneur. You cannot do this stuff. It's like, you were good in the corporate world, but when you look at it, it's like, no, it doesn't work. No, it doesn't work. So you think, it's my fault. There's something wrong with me. Eh?
Yes.
But that's not the case. It's just another way of conditioning you to make you feel not good enough. And if you feel not good enough, you're easier to control and to be manipulated.
Yes. And I want to, at least, the things that I've recognized at this point is these do start very, very young. We are conditioned, you had mentioned from birth, I agree. And it's hard to break those patterns, right? There's our brain gets conditioned, as you phrased it, gets conditioned to recognize that these are the appropriate patterns. And when you go to try to change those patterns, it hurts, because you're going back, you're going against maybe decades of conditioning. Certainly, the first 5 to 10 years of your life. So since we're going to talk about these patterns, like, why do they usually need fixing? Like, how is it? We've talked about, obviously, these are dysfunctional patterns, or at least they end up manifesting in our lives in a dysfunctional way. Why is that? Why is that a lie? Why is the American dream? Why is all of this conditioning? Why is it a lie? How is it a lie?
Because there are people in charge, and among people is also non-human intelligence, who feed upon our negative energy. So it's called loosh, Loosh. Loosh is the negative energy. If we're depressed, if we're sad, if we feel not good enough, whatever. It's a low frequency energy which we emit. And if we do that with 8 billion people, that is
a lot of energy.
That's a lot of negative energy, which is the fuel of this non-human force. So
I see.
They thrive on that energy. So that's why they want us to be in that situation, because they need that fuel.
Let me ask this question first. I want to return to that. But does that mean, could anybody ever be immune from some of these early patterns, from some of this conditioning?
It's not that you can totally, like in the computer, is like, I'm going to delete the file and it's totally gone. Yeah, so,
sure.
Yeah, so it's like you can learn how to deal with it. Yeah, I'm making everything. Suppose you were abused or raped in your youth.
Yeah.
There's nothing which can, there's a mind wipe with the moment we're born, but it's not like, I would like to do a mind wipe now so that my memory is clean again.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
It doesn't exist. So it's like, it will always be there. But what you can do is that you can create better ways of dealing with it.
Okay. So
I
mitigate the symptoms.
well, let me give a tangible example.
Okay.
Because my father non-stop criticized us. I was not too long ago at a talk with my sister, and I asked her, "Can you remember that I got ever a compliment from my father, or did you or we?" And we both could not remember. So we
Jeez.
we never got a compliment, never ever about anything. So that means it's very, very strong inside of me. Still, after all these years of work, I very quickly feel not good enough.
Yeah.
So I guess it's never going to get out of my system, but it's more like I question myself now. It's like, Arnold, are you really not good enough?
Right.
Do you really think you cannot do that? You have proven this, this, and this, and this. I think you can do that. Ah, okay, you're right. But my initial response is, no, I cannot do that. I'm not good enough. Blah blah blah.
Right. Well, it becomes self-perpetuating.
Yeah.
Self-perpetuating, because we reinforce these patterns by every time we use them. Because I'm curious. Maybe your father did pay you compliments, but at this point you don't remember them because they're drowned out by a pattern that was very strongly embedded within you. He criticized you enough that now you don't recall whether or not he could have been complimentary, and it's curious. I mean, I wonder if he did, and now it's just you can't even remember it, or you don't believe it. Ooh, actually, let me ask that question, because my father was very much the same, very critical, and so shoot, what did I just say? It's not that I don't. It's so like maybe my father did compliment me at one point. At this point, I don't really recall it. But even if I did, I didn't believe it. Right, and when I have people at work today, I mean, you have mentioned some phenomenal accomplishments that you had in industry. Even when you get complimented by the people around you, we don't believe it, right? I mean, this
Absolutely,
is is this
absolutely.
just me? Maybe.
No, no, no,
Hopefully,
no,
it's
no.
not.
It's absolutely true. But there's even,
Okay.
I'm inclined to say scientific, but that doesn't matter. It's like there's something called the Losada line. And the Losada line is one in comparison to, I believe, is 3.16 or something like. Is that
Okay.
in you need to offset one criticism by three compliments.
Oh, wow.
There's even he's a psychologist, Baumgartner from Australia. He says it's one versus four. Yeah, so it's like
Okay.
if you criticize one, you get to offside it with four compliments. So
Yeah.
but in our cases, it was the opposite. Is like we get five criticisms and one compliment. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So it's like you're totally right. He might have done it in his way, but it's like it would be totally diluted by all of the other criticism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it gets buried. Yeah, it gets buried. I I want you to. What is the name of the line again? Did you say?
Losada line.
Okay, I will have to. I'll put that in the notes. I'm gonna find that and put that in the notes.
And Baumgartner is it starts with an R. I'm not really sure with the first name, but he's the
Okay.
very famous psychologist from Australia.
Okay. All right. I will put those in there. I had not ever heard that research. It's surprising that you can quantify that, I suppose.
Yeah,
Because I
but
mean,
I even had well, it doesn't matter. Last week or the week before that, I was
yeah.
having a talk with a friend, and I'm talking about this inner critic because and he said Arnold, I can relate because he said last week everything went fine in the business and at home and whatever, and he said there was one tiny thing which didn't went totally according to plan, and he said
Right.
I had a feeling I had a total lousy week.
Yeah. I mean, that's a. I know we have a negativity bias, or at least, that's been observed, that humans tend to have a negativity bias. That we'll go, wow, I had a great week before, but one thing went wrong and that destroyed the entire week. This is a way of me trying to get back around to say you had mentioned a non-human intelligence. Is that, what's the word I want to use? Is that programmed? Is that purposeful because it's useful? Tell me more about, I guess, this non-human intelligence and how it benefits from.
I've been digging into that for the last few months because it has a huge influence on all of us and our behavior and everything else. But it appears to be. I started really with a blank slate. I didn't even watch Star Trek or whatever. It's like, so all of these things, I have no clue.
Perfect.
I'm reasonably good at starting from scratch and very fast building up a little bit of knowledge. Actually, I watched a great video this morning. It was about a Jesuit priest.
Okay.
His name is Salvador Freixedo. Salvador Freixedo. Have you heard about him?
Okay.
Nodding.
It's not ringing a bell, no.
Okay. He is a Jesuit, and Jesuit is kind of the, what is it, A level in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, academic. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Definitely
very high
academic
level or whatever. And he
Yeah.
was practicing all of these. He was from Spain, but then went to South America and everywhere. And he was like, this thing's not true, and it's not working like this, and whatever. And he actually he came to be that there is this new human intelligence. The guy has passed away a few years ago, but it's like it's already for ages people are talking about these things, and this non-human before people talk about maybe even millennia that these things are happening. Yeah.
Sure.
And that they have an influence on this planet. Because I already started thinking, let's say for 20 years, is like we talk about progress. Like, well, we're a good society and we make progress there and progress there. And I'm like, no, that's not true. Why are we still having wars? Why are we still having huge amount of sick people? Why are people unhappy? Why is most of the people in the world don't know whether they're gonna have food tomorrow? Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
poverty. There's all these things, and I'm like, no, this is real BS about progress. There is no progress, and these wars have been going on for hundreds, thousands of years.
Right. Oh, millennia.
Yeah.
Yes. Human history, all of human history.
Why have we not solved that, Amy? Why is it still there? If we are so bright and making progress, it's like, why can't we make sure that everybody's happy and healthy and there are no more wars? Isn't that
It's
difficult?
food. No, shouldn't be. We should certainly be able to get enough food
Yeah.
to feed people.
Well, a lot of people don't even have a toilet. Yeah, so it's like,
Right.
why can we not solve that? And why do we think we are progress? We're such a high advanced society. Well, it's clear
Yeah.
that we're at the bottom of the ring, not at the top of the ring. Yes, it's like, and
Yeah.
there are people, these well, not people, but these, let's call it non-human intelligence, who
Yeah.
thrive based on our negative energy. So that's the only explanation, because otherwise you cannot explain to me that in thousands of years, there would not be a benevolent king or president or ruler who said, well, enough, let's stop with wars, let's stop with everybody taxing and me earning a huge amount of money. Let's make sure that everybody's got a house, food, and etc.
Yeah.
By the way, that was possible. I recently read the story about Gaddafi in Libya. Eh?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think he was murdered by the Americans, and there was this revolution with it. But
Well, yes.
because his land had oil, he promised
Yes.
everybody free housing, everybody a job. If you didn't get a job, you still would get paid. If you get children, you get money, everything, you get a free car, and whatever. It's like, it was incredible how he took care of his people because he had oil.
Muammar Gaddafi? We're talking about the same. Oh my gosh, he was certainly not presented like that
No, but that's all the
when
time.
I heard about him.
Look at Saddam Hussein, weapons of mass destruction. We never found them. So it's like,
Well,
yeah, it's all of these things. It's again the same thing. We create a narrative, and the
yeah.
narrative is like he's an ugly dictator and we need to kill him. But the thing is, he became an example for all other countries. Like, wow, why can't we live like this?
Yeah, you would certainly think so. But we do. I'm trying to figure out how I want to put this. First of all, let me ask this question because some of what you're talking about sort of sounds like along the lines of what Carl Jung talked about. I mean, at this point, many years ago, 80 years ago, 90 years ago now. 80 years ago anyway. Some of the things that he was talking about postulated the idea that there was a greater consciousness, certainly. And, he wanted to call it the collective unconscious rather than necessarily terming these as gods and goddesses, as we would have thought about even a millennium ago, certainly 2 millennia ago, we would have thought of it like that. So I guess one of the ways I want to back into this question, I mean, could we be talking about, we put ourselves, you would say we were at the bottom of the ring, not at the top. Has science helped us sort of move away from this idea that there is a bigger picture, that we are the most supreme being when it's clear from evidence that we are not? Did that question make any sense?
Same way of narrative of creating an illusion.
Okay.
Yeah, that we are the greatest there ever been. There's progress. Look at everything we do, and we're capable of. It's like, yeah, but it want to make you proud to be a human, and everything is great.
Right.
Huh?
In that case, and I'm not trying to trap you in anything here. So when I go into this, just know I'm not trying to. I'm more musing than anything, because if that's the case, you have. I'm going to use gods and goddesses because that's just, as a pagan, that's just most familiar to me. The idea that the universe has some sort of animation, is alive. If that were the case, like those intelligences, there must be a balancing intelligence. I mean, because all of those intelligences also need to remain alive in one way or another. If everything is negative, then everything gets destroyed, and sooner or later those intelligences would have no energy to consume, no negative energy to consume. Wouldn't there need to be a balancing factor in some way? Does that make sense?
A couple of observations.
Okay.
Yes, we live in a duality. So from a duality point of view, you must be right. Yes. So, but if you, and again, there's this narrative like we are the only planet in the world where there are people and we're living here and the galaxy and everything else. Let's suppose that we are just a tiny, tiny hair split in the total galaxy. There are other galaxies, whatever, and just like everywhere else, they're well-intended galaxies and they're evil-intended galaxies. So,
okay,
I think it will maybe even out in the larger thing. But even maybe, and I'm not sure about that, is like across that, why should we have this duality? Why could we not just be love and be kind and compassionate without, I'm loving, but now I feel sick. That is the duality at work. But suppose that there is a place somewhere in the universe above all these dimensions where there is no duality. Because the duality is the cause of all the shit.
I have a response. Do you want to hear my response? You're laughing. I love that. I The way that I see things, and I've had several conversations with esoteric authors about this, because I mean, I think it's a huge point. We tend to present the universe as a duality, right? That there is a good, there is an evil, there's a black, there's a white, whatever, however you want to put it. But most of the people I've spoken to see that the real value is in the liminality. It's in the diversity. It is the balance. That it's not that the duality, that something has to be a duality necessarily, but that we need multiple currents in order to move forward. Because I love what you're saying. Well, yeah, wouldn't it be great if we just had like a galaxy that was all positive? And someday we can just leave what's going on in the United States. I know you're not here, but what's going on Earth, let's say, and go off to that galaxy and just have a great life. The rest of us have great lives and leave people who want to be negative in the negative side. I don't know if that's how it works. I believe there needs to be a push and a pull. I think there needs to be a diversity. I'm going to bring up a dumb example. Did you see the Barbie movie? Told you it was a dumb example. Okay. Forgive me for throwing this at you. And the fact that I'm going to use make a philosophical argument on the Barbie movie is already just right there. There are people who are like, I got to turn this podcast off. Really? Yes, really. If you go to Barbie, they show like the real world, everybody's unhappy. They go to the Barbie world, everybody's happy, right? And the point was supposed to be, at least kind of, that the real world was like a patriarchy. The Barbie world was somewhat of a matriarchy. And then, somebody brings patriarchy back to the Barbie world and everything goes to shit because patriarchy is terrible. But when you look at the Barbie world, it was a matriarchy, essentially. It was not all positive. There were still people who were oppressed. There were people who were ignored. There were people they didn't like. The people in power were like, God, where the hell do those people sleep? Like, what do they do at night? Any polar, if you go to any extreme, it's that extreme that's bad, right? Because the Barbie world ultimately was dystopian. Dystopic? What's the word? What's the adjective there? It was a dystopia, just like they presented the real world. All right, now I've given you my Barbie argument. Forgive me on that, but I do. What's your thought? I know you have a lot to say.
My thought around that is it's a limitation in our own thinking, and it's a limitation.
Oh, okay.
It's a limitation caused by the narrative, because and the narrative is like there's good and evil, you're sick and healthy, there's well-being and there's shit. It's like we're so used to that, and like there needs to be gravity. Well, why does there need to be gravity? Yeah, why does it need to be both? Why can it not be all the time the same? How it works and how I get there, don't ask me. If I'm researching it, if I find out, I will let you know. So it's like, so it's like, but it's like we tend to believe that is normal, but that is the same thing.
Okay.
Like I came to this conclusion about progress. Like, no, we're not making progress. I love watching travel videos. And there's a man called Gabriel. Highly recommend him. He went to whatever already 60 different islands in Greece, and he always goes on every island. There's a castle, an old ruin of a castle, and he always goes to
Sure.
the castle. Is like the castle this and that, and he loves that. And I'm like, this is terrible, because it's like it means you're already for millennia. We are having wars because otherwise you wouldn't need to build a castle on the hill. So it's like,
right.
Why are we doing this? It's really stupid. Yeah? And it's not even like the soldiers in it, but think about the people who had to carry stones up the hill to build that castle. It's like,
right.
But I can have the same argument, and I know it most of the same. I don't know how old I was as a child, but I knew in this case I was 11 years old. My father had sent me to Sunday school. And when I get 11, 12, I get to the high school and whatever. And this is first time ever in my life. That's why I still know. Arnold, what do you want is like, do you want to continue the Sunday school or you just want to quit and go to high school? Well, I would go to high school anyway, but in combination with the Sunday school. And I was like, I'm totally fed up with this Sunday school because there were people saying how great God was and how great the world is and it's so loving and nice and whatever. And I was like, can you please send that God 1 week in my family? Then
Yeah.
you would know that this is not true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I was so fed up about this lie. Is like, no, that's not how the real world works.
Right.
So but a lot of people believe still that saying that there is in our dimension a benevolent God or goddesses or whatever. And it was helping you like, why are we then having millennia of war, famine, poverty, etc.? There is no benevolent God because if he would have said, it's like, well, finish, we're going to stop all this, no more wars, nothing, everybody's okay. Yeah?
Well, if it's an omnipotent God, yes. But if it's and a God who has no more power than a negative God. I mean, they're all just different different goals, right? Because I mean, I don't care who you are in history, you always think you're the good guy, right? I mean, it doesn't look at any historical figure. That person, the canonical example, right? Adolf Hitler thought he was the good guy, right? I mean, it was just you pull out a little bit and you go, maybe not the best guy here, but so I guess all I'm trying to say is, if you had two dueling, I don't know if I want to call it ideologies, but goals anyway. I mean, that would partly explain it. But you know what? This is all theoretical. Because what I wanted to do actually was lay the fault.
It's still very valid that in any way, whether it's true or not what you say, but it's very important because you show also with your example that the narrative is incorrect.
Agreed. Oh, and that was because I wanted to get back to that because we could go on and on about gods and goddesses the rest of the day. But I ultimately what I was going to do, what I wanted to do, I'm going to say it like that because I'll at least take responsibility for this. I wanted to lay it at like Christianity's feet and say, see, it's this concept of an omnipotent God, yada, yada. But you've shown me these are human expectations. The real problem has been expectations. We expect that things are going to be good, or we expect that we're going to have progress. We expect that if we work hard, we're going to be rewarded. We expect if we go to church on Sunday, then we're going to go and sing carols for eternity, which sounds dreadfully boring, if I might point out. Could you imagine that for eternity? That you just said, oh, hallelujah. That's eternity, right? I mean, I would much prefer like the Norse gods where you go to Valhalla and like you get drunk and stab each other or something and you wake up the next day, do it again. I mean, at least you're not just like singing. Anyway, just my thought. Getting off of that, sorry. Human expectations, it's the narratives, exactly what you're saying, which brings me to the point that it's a human problem. We believe these things. We get taught these things. We perpetuate these things. That's a bummer. How do we get out of it? There's my question. It took going through the Barbie movie to get to that question, which a little bit of me, is sort of proud of. But
it's really important to start to see the flaws in the narrative of the establishment and communicate that and talk about it like you and I are doing. We are having a conversation, a dialogue, and not like, oh, you're wrong and I'm right, or this or that. It's like, no, we talk about saying, oh, we don't know, we think it like this, or that. But this is how you create progress. Yeah,
Yes.
and
Yes.
but we absolutely agree on the fact that the existing narrative is not helping us. To put it nicely, yes,
Yes.
yes,
Certainly dysfunctional. Yeah. Look around. It's
yes,
obviously.
yeah, I was gonna use another word, but it's like so it's like yeah, it's like yeah. So all of these things is like more and more people start to waken up, and people are realizing like, well, this American dream is not true,
Yeah.
and by the way, I got my university degree and I got a corporate career and then you get married and you have children and whatever. And all the people are like, yeah, now I lost my job to AI and my marriage is not as nice anymore. And my children, they also go to a psychologist and one of them is addicted and whatever. It's like people are starting to see that all of those dreams or messages or promises are not and
Yeah.
they're not true. Hmm? And you can apply that to anything. Yeah, well, I call it C19, otherwise you get blocked. But it's like a lot of people are seeing that the narrative was not true. And so people are waking up. It's like, hey, what else are they telling me that's not true? Or what else are
Right.
they lying about? What else? So that is happening at the world. It's happening far too slow and with not enough people. But it is happening. It's absolutely happening.
So how do we accelerate that process? This is your work now, right? Is accelerating this process of
Yeah, and,
people figuring it out.
that is about what I want to do is to make brain fitness equally important as body fitness. It's like everybody understands that you need to exercise and you need to move, and it doesn't matter whether you walk your dog or you go swim or play tennis or go to the gym.
Yeah.
Everybody understands that it's necessary, but I think it's equally important to work on your brain and to keep your brain active and work on purpose, complexity, challenge, and keep it working because it's just like your body. If you don't use it, you lose it. And that is what's happening now because of all these tools, AI, eh, people are losing the capability to read, to write, to think for themselves, to think
Yeah.
critically, to create. All of these things are being lost. So I'm like, this is terrible. And this is going on all over the world at all ages. And it's like,
Oh, sure.
I really, well, that is my small contribution to the world is like, I would like that in a few years people say, yes, I do body fitness and I do brain fitness, or even I do fitness and it encompasses both my body and my brain. That is how I'm trying to contribute. So my mission is to enable better brains and better innovation for better living. That is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I, the thought occurred to me. Certainly in the United States, we see people relying too much on whatever Siri, Gemini, all of the tools, right? Miss Google, all of the things. But what about outside? I mean, my experience has been Western civilization, Western society. I'll put it like that. And so I see people overly reliant on some tools that we don't even understand. You'd mentioned AI, and I think that's a great point in itself. What about outside? I mean, if we were to go to, I'd pick a random country that's not Western society. Does the same thing happen then? Is that are there still people overly reliant upon technology, even if it's at a more of a distance than it is in Western society?
I would say it's everywhere in between quotes modern societies, but there are still indigenous people who live, for instance, in the middle of the Amazon or in Indonesia, in the
Sure.
rainforest, wherever. By the way, and there's a lot of research being done. Don't you find it amazing that none of these people have dementia or Parkinson or whatever? Huh? Yeah, so
It's fascinating.
yeah, these people get older, they're more healthier, they're more happy, whatever, and they're not using any of those tools. For the rest, in the modern world, we did a podcast with Ph.D. student in Namibia. He works at in the university in the capital, Windhoek, and he says he was having difficulty because he's like, well, my students are so stupid and they cannot do anything. Yeah, and he's clear that it's social media, but he thought it's social media in combination with the feeling which most Africans have is that they are at a lower level than the rest of the world. Eh?
Yeah.
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 So, and I talked with him, and it's like, no, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And he was kind of relieved that it was not an African thing. Yeah, that is what he thought. Yeah, because he knew that he's been traveling to Rwanda and other countries. Like, it's everywhere. And I'm like, well, it's not only there, it's in Romania, it's in the US, it's in Germany, it's everywhere. So
yeah.
all of these things you see that influence, like, except for indigenous people who never seen a computer in their life.
Sure. We have the tendency, though, how do I want to put this? There are some people who will idealize that experience, who will say we should all go back to, indigenous people, indigenous type cultures, like in the Australian outback in particular was one that I saw. You mentioned Indonesia as well. That people will idealize that experience. But what I just heard too was that it's still our expectations, it's still our narrative, which says to me it's not the indigenous experience, but rather the indigenous narrative. Does that make sense? Did I get that correct? Ooh,
I cannot say that. I cannot say that. Yeah? But it's like, if you see AI as a tool,
yeah,
I don't believe it's a tool. It's a management structure to control total human population. But assume that we see it as a tool. It has been over the years. It's like, let's say, many thousands of years ago, when people were able to make knives. Eh? A knife is a useful thing to maybe cut trees, cut the meat, cut your bread, whatever. But it's also, I can put it in your neck. It's like, it's like, but we learned, generally speaking, is like, okay, let's use it for good, and if we do use it for evil, that is not the intention of a knife. Eh?
sure.
Apply the same logic to AI. Is like, we can use it mostly for good, but it's also used for evil. But in order to do that, we need ethical rules. We need regulation. We need rules. We need a pathway to do that, but nobody's willing to talk about that.
And we're not willing to talk.
We invented knives, but nobody is like, shall we restrict the use of knives, maybe?
Yeah. We're not making those. We're not asking those questions though, because we're
being
caught in our
excellent videos, especially there's one from Tristan Harris. He's the guy
Okay.
who had. He's also behind a movie called The Social Dilemma, which you've seen, and he is a very, very knowledgeable guy, and he was at the top in Google before that, and he warned for the impact of social media and everything around it.
Yes,
yeah?
I knew the name.
He has a video out, and he's doing the same with AI. It's like, it's going all over the place, so we need to make those. Well, we need those guardrails, otherwise it will totally destroy us. But nobody's willing to talk about it because everybody's like, we want to be number one in the LLM because then there is this $110 trillion market for us to capture.
Right. Aside from the profit motive, which is very motivating, we've seen quite motivational. We're still in some ways trapped though in these older narratives that this is just the way it ought to be, right? I mean, we don't see that there is an alternative. And I was going to say, even with a knife, if you go, well, shouldn't we restrict knives? Don't, how did you put it? Stick it in somebody's neck. If we say, this is now bad. Don't stick it in people's necks. That does need to become a foundation, an underpinning, a low-level narrative. I'm going to use your words. It's got to be a low-level narrative that we go, well, I've got a knife. I'm going to cut my meat. I'm going to cut my trees. Not going to stick this in somebody's neck. That's what has to happen first in order for there to be lasting change. Or am I wrong on that? Is that what you believe?
There is your logic makes sense, but
That's fair.
there is another problem. Is that people are using that capability to think critically.
Oh, right.
Well, let's call it like we said earlier in our introductory, is like people are getting more stupid. So
Yeah.
they are not capable of building that argumentation which you just did.
Yeah. Yeah. So I see what you're saying. I came to a conclusion, you said, but you came to that conclusion through critical thought. And what we have to do first is make critical thought the normal path for humans. Is that, did I sum that up okay?
Yeah, well, it's like you need to be capable of making those considerations.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you don't have the capacity or the capability to do that, there's a
Right.
problem.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I thought I was going to have something low level, and you said no, there's something much lower. The ability to make these arguments.
Yeah.
How do we develop that? This is your work, actually. That's the brain fitness. What does that entail? I mean, obviously there are classes here that you don't. I mean, don't tell me all the secrets, but what are the components then of keeping your brain fit so that we can have these conversations?
Well, my training program is based on what I call the 6 R's.
Okay.
And the first step is called reveal. And it reveals that we are basically what I say, we're in a cage. And the cage is you need a job, and your job you need to consume because you need to eat, you pay your mortgage, pay the gas for your car, everything.
Yeah.
And then you need entertainment because everything, the consumption and the work is most of the time lousy. So you need entertainment to at least make your life bearable. But then you need the money to make that happen. So it's like you're in a cage. Yeah?
Right.
And the reveal is also about straitjacket. I've identified 35 different straitjackets from,
Oh.
well, we talked about, well, one of them is religion, the other one is subordination. They're just 2 examples, and I got 35 more, 33 more. And the second one is recover. We need to recover from suppression of our emotions. Because we are so used, well, doesn't matter whether it's male or female or in cultures. I've spoken to people all over the world. They're like, most people are used to suppress your emotion. That's very unhealthy. Yeah? And at the same time, I would say 90% plus of the people are addicted to something. So you need to recover from that. The next step is reactivate. We, in our society, tend to focus only on the mental aspect, the thoughts.
Okay.
But we forget about the emotion, the spiritual side, the physical side, the environmental side, and the social side. Right? Then we need to reset our lens. Reset the lens is, I use it like, if our lens is like everything which an authority figure says is the truth, then you live in a total different reality. Then you start to question those things.
Right.
The next R is called reactivate. We need to reactivate certain knowledge, skills, and mindset. Most of the stuff which is being taught at school, there's nothing taught at school. We're only memorizing. But basically, everything what we just discussed about non-human intelligence, it's everybody knows. It's like up until the president of the U.S. about it's called the Disclosure Project, and all these things are there. is like it's known for maybe 100 years already. Yeah, so it like, but even if you read the Book of Enoch or the Nag Hammadi Bible, it's mentioned there as well. It's like none of that is new. So it's like, yeah, share the real story. Yeah, so it's about knowledge, it's about skills. Yeah, and people got to know is like which skills are critical in comparison to AI and whatever. It's like it's your
Yeah.
creativity, whatever. But most people, if I ask, are you creative? Nobody raises his hand. So it's like, yeah, it's like it's the creativity, and especially the mindset. And the mindset is that there's much more evil in this world than we know, and that is the reason why we feel why we suffer so much, because we expect not to suffer. You see, yeah? So
Yeah.
coming back to those expectations. Yeah? And the
Yeah.
last step is recreate. Is like based upon all of these things. If you start to literally see yourself and the world in a different way, recreate it. Recreate your own life, maybe your family, your city, your neighborhood, your community, but maybe your country or bigger is like created based on this new understanding how the world really works and not how they tell you how it works.
Yeah. I can imagine that's ridiculously difficult. Just having gone through some of this in my own life, it would be difficult because you have to challenge everything you know. You have to challenge everything you've learned, everything you see around you, everybody you see around you. It would be difficult.
I'm,
I'm
I'm,
not saying we shouldn't do it.
I'm not denying it, but
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that anything challenging costs time, effort, and discipline. Yeah?
Yes.
And
Agreed.
and if you, what a lot of people are, if you're totally fed up how your life works out at this point in time,
Yeah.
and you're like, I want something else, and well, instead of taking a lot of drugs, it's like it's worthwhile your effort and time because you're creating a life which has more meaning, which gives you more confidence, which gives you more energy, and that's what everybody wants.
Right. Right.
So
I don't disagree. Yeah.
it is doable. It's not a quick fix. It's something, but it makes your life, I would say, worthwhile.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, so many people out there right now are going, "Wow, this life sucks. Why are we doing this?"
Yeah.
But I agree. If you can, I mean, I'm sure it's tough, to go through this process, but to make your life have meaning, acquire meaning, how awesome would that be, right? I mean, to have a life filled with meaning.
Yeah, it's like I say to people because I say I have this 15-week training program, and people are 15 week, yeah, because everybody's into instant gratification and just
Right.
pop a pill and everything is red. And I said,
Yes.
it took you at least 20 years of your life to be conditioned in the way you do. That's 20
Yeah.
years. I'm
Yeah.
asking 15 weeks to uncondition it.
Right.
Is that a lot?
It should not be. Well, and if you think about it this way too, if you uncondition your brain, if it took you 20 years to feel terrible, 15 weeks, maybe you're going to have 20 years where you don't, which is kind of a great return on investment when it comes down to it. I mean, I hope I'm alive for another 20 years, hope. And if I had 20 good years after, a lot of not good years, it seems like that should be worth it. So,
Absolutely.
so I
Absolutely.
definitely agree. Yeah. I'm going to tell you, Arnold, I'm really upset. We're like running out of time and it's bug. This has been such a phenomenal conversation. First of all, just want to say thank you for every very, fascinating point you've brought up. I know that there will be people who want to follow up on all of this. So can you tell me first of all, how do we find your work on the internet, and how do we continue engaging with everything that you've mentioned?
Well, it's quite simple. I have a website called braingym.fitness. There they can find some masterclasses. Those are 90-minute videos around specific topics where they're in the form of a workshop. It's like I'm giving a workshop to you. It's about emotions, it's about uniqueness, it's about curiosity, it's about aging, it's about relationships. So those are specific topics. And there's my 15-week training program, which is, but it's not every day. It's like, well, you're supposed to work on it every day, but you have a session with me every week for 90 minutes.
Okay.
It's called From Fitting In to Flying Out.
To flying out, yeah. I wrote down a handful of social media networks here that you're on. After we've just said, oh yeah, don't listen to social media. Do you engage much on social media? I mean, I've got a Facebook and a YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. Is that a good way to engage?
Well, people can engage with whatever they want. Yeah, but
Okay.
so I will see it or know. Probably the most easy way is LinkedIn. Yeah.
Okay.
But my name is Arnold Beekes. As far as I know, I'm the only Arnold Beekes on LinkedIn. So, it's you can ask any question and do this thing. You ask about how do I use the thing? I use it for my research and knowing what's happening in the world. And like I found this guy this morning, Salvador Freixedo, totally incredible, really nice video because I follow the guy on X and I saw that he had this video and I immediately watched this video. It's incredible that
Yeah.
a Jesuit guy already came up with these things 50 years ago. Yeah, so it's like totally incredible. So I use it for my research. Yeah, but not to see whether my neighbor's got a new dress. Yes, yeah,
Sure. There is value in social media,
yeah.
although maybe cat videos is not the right value for it.
Maybe
value.
not.
Although cat videos, I gotta admit, I really do love watching cat videos. I'll just throw that out there. Everybody already knows this, but that's great. I want to get these links. I'm going to put these links in the notes. I got to tell you this, I walked into this wondering, what we were going to talk about, and you'll see I had totally different questions, right? Totally different idea. This has been a phenomenal conversation. And I want to take a moment to say thank you for the work that you do. And thank you for sharing it, with all of us. It's amazing. So I'll stop gushing. Thank you for that.
Thank you for allowing this conversation to flow. Huh?
Of course. Oh my gosh. No, it was so good. I guess I will go ahead and start shutting it down though. Absolutely. Everybody who's listening, go and engage with Arnold's work. It's very good stuff. And I want to thank everybody who listened. My name is Amethyst Herrick. You've been listening to the Purple Podcast, where I was talking with Arnold Beekes, and we have talked about the narratives that humans come up with, non-human intelligences that may benefit from it, and of course, recreating ultimately the life that's going to bring you rewards. So thank you again, Arnold, for all that you've brought here today. Thank you.